All right, everybody, welcome to mock interview number 124, featuring Chris Hurtado, a business analyst, and I also believe a soon-to-be new graduate. So for all those new
Yeah.
graduates in the house, this is just great for you as you look at graduation here in just a couple of weeks. I can't believe we're already in upon that season. Anyways, my name is Albert, founder of Albert's List, and I will be your co-host today along my with my trusty career coach here, Corey of CareerShakers.com. We did these mock interviews for 5 years now, and it is always a joy to sit across from Corey and also the mock interviewee and see what kind of magic we can cook up on any given day of the week. The way these mock interviews work is pretty simple. Chris has chosen a job and also shared his resume with us. And Corey has prepared questions and will ask these questions. Chris will respond, and then Corey will give feedback. For those of you who are in the audience, feel free to ask your own questions as well. Many get selected and are part of the interview process. So without further ado, Corey, over to you.
Thank you. Super excited. And please, first of all, let's give Chris a huge round of applause for volunteering, both for education and entertainment purposes today. So today we're going to be practicing interview questions that you would typically get for a business analyst or data analyst type role. We're going to go through some of the common questions and then we'll talk about ways to answer the question and I'll provide some feedback to Chris based on some of the responses that he shares. Now, because this is a practice interview, Chris is totally allowed to look at notes, reference other documents, and just try to practice his answers overall so we can give him some overall feedback on how to improve. We're not focusing too much on like body language and delivery, focusing more on the content itself. And if you guys in the audience have any questions, either for me or for Chris, please do put them in the chat. I did see that there is someone in here who is currently working as a data analyst. So we'd also love to see what kind of common questions you've gotten when you were doing your interviews as well. But before we actually get into the mock interview itself, we always want to give our brave volunteers a platform to introduce themselves in a non-interview setting. And I'll actually put up Chris's resume right here. So, Chris, if you want to give the folks just a high-level background on yourself, kind of jobs you're looking for, what kind of companies, locations, and that way, if anyone finds something or knows of any opportunities, they can contact you.
Well, absolutely. First and foremost, pretty sure I said it before, but I'm very grateful for this opportunity. I'm a 20-year-old senior at Menlo College, coming from Los Angeles, and a 3-year student as I'm graduating that has been doing Menlo College as my undergraduate in business and a analytics minor. But in that time, I've also boosted my studies through a community college, and that's really helped me get my foot in the game on just putting myself in a good position to where I can set my focuses to where I think would be best. And based on my internship I just had last summer, I was able to expand my horizon through some of the studies I've had through business analytics and combining that with my software engineering internship I had at Kaiser Permanente that really helped jumpstart my leadership role that I had there that propelled me to help me gain opportunities here at Menlo that like becoming the trading club president here and becoming part of the dean's board and so on. So just trying to use this confidence that I've gained not only from Menlo, my internship, but just traits that I'm bringing from Los Angeles, and now I'm in the heart of Silicon Valley to just give it my best shot in this platform as a volunteer.
Awesome. And then what kind of companies and roles are you looking at and locations?
Locations wise, I will be looking for roles, business analyst or data analysis. I in Los Angeles, preferably since I would be going back there. And if the opportunity was given again to put my feet in the water for a software engineering entry role, then I would also be open to that as well.
Okay. And then for the software role, would you be open to Bay Area or also just LA?
Also just LA.
Okay. Awesome.
Mhm. Mhm.
And for those of you who wanted to see or know if we have other mock interviews for other types of roles besides business analyst and data analyst, you can check out my YouTube channel here, Career Shakers, all one word. We've got other types of interview tips and other videos. And then please do check out Albert's List YouTube channel as well. We also upload all of the previous mock interviews, like we did one for a community manager and compliance role, and other types of mock interviews. So please do check out both of our YouTube channels. And then also, I do have a data science, like resume keywords as well as interview questions video. I know it's not the exact same as business analyst or data analyst, but there is a lot of overlap. So if any of you are looking at data science roles, you can check out this video that I have right over
Uh,
here.
Can I just chime in? I'm also I forgot to mention, but like I'm after I finish with Menlo College, I'm also going to try to get a master's degree in data science. So it's funny
Okay,
you mentioned that. Yeah.
perfect. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
cool. And then today we're going to be practicing a data analyst role for SAS Institute. This is the job description that I was using and referencing to create the questions, as well as a mixture of Chris's background. And so typically how it works is I'll pretend to be an interviewer. I'll ask Chris an interview question. He'll answer. I usually try not to give any hints unless you get totally stuck. That way we can treat it like a real interview. And then at the end of each question, I'll give some feedback, areas of a possible improvement, as well as things that Chris did very well. That way, for those of you who are watching, you can take some tips and apply them to your own practice when you're practicing for these kinds of interviews. And of course, again, if you have questions for us, put it in the chat. If you want questions that are directed at me, or you want interview questions for me and Chris to practice. And one of you is a data analyst, so would also love to keep me honest because I myself am not a data analyst. So if there's any suggestions for Chris, please put that in the chat as well. Okay, are you ready to get started, Chris?
I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's get it going. I'll try
All
my
right, cool.
best, especially for the data analyst that's here. I'll try to do all the right questions that I can.
Awesome. So, Chris, why don't you walk me through your resume?
My resume, so I put it from my education to experiences that I thought would be were some meaningful experience I've had in my past, especially like the internship that I just mentioned to you as a software engineer, that really opened my eyes to wanting to continue down this path of, okay, is analytics something that's for me? Because I've heard a lot that it could be boring, that is, some bad things about it. So that really helped me plant my feet down. And I also mentioned this Ally Universal internship as well because it was a program that I had back in high school that during one of the days during the week I was able to uh, they had corporate work study where most of the students were able to uh, find find like a job that they were interested in, and from there just be a part of the team. And being part of the team is a big thing in data analysts doing projects. So being a part of the team and then like I put there on board communication, hiring people, I just feel like that was a good way how I started my career in like the work experience and building myself up now in order to build the courage to not be afraid to be a part of a team dynamic. And then in the bottom, you can also see some student activities here that that has really helped me just like not be as timid as I once was outside, coming from my home in Los Angeles to now in the Bay Area, where there's a whole lot of opportunities. And thanks to this small private school, they saw me as a person and have given me opportunities that I never thought would be possible when I was in LA, or just as a awkward person that I once was, given opportunities like a president of the trading club or just on the Dean Student Advisory Council, just trying to give feedback based on what students have said during some of our meetings. And yeah.
Okay. And for this data analyst position, what are the relevant courses that you've taken that you think would be most applicable for this job?
So I put right there the coding for analytics, data visualization, and a master's course program that I'm taking right now, artificial intelligence concepts. But some other ones that I've done is like an intro class to business analytics, where learning SQL, which is a really huge thing in business analytics sphere. And not only that, but just the visualization that I put right there, learning Tableau. And from there, I thought those are some relevant coursework that would be that help me make a foundation for myself based on based on what Menlo has provided me as I made in my minor here.
Awesome. And then what are some of the data projects that you've done
Data
through
projects
those courses?
so I made so through Tableau I was able to work with the team, and in that team we were able to go through different countries, and based on the air pollution and air qual and the air density that we're able to see how how some like countries like India or like United States how different they are, and from there we went into going specifically into okay, since like let's say United States or India might have more than another country, why is that the case? And through some data sets we found on Kaggle, we're able to provide these visualizations to our professor in order for us to show these differences in the air pollution, air density, and showing through our research what some of these countries are doing right and wrong based on like the top three or bottom three countries that had like the least amount of deaths based on air pollution, and giving our feedback after that project. So that's one of the big ones that I'm doing right now. Or and then another one that I'm also doing right now for artificial intelligence concepts is right now we have the base down of it. I'm working with a partner, and we're using Python in order to find some data. Well, we're gonna put some data sets in there, and based on those data sets, we're gonna answer a question of some about renewable energy. So let me find the actual message. We're gonna find something about yeah. The question for this is can a private home in California achieve full energy self-sufficiency by 2030 using solar, wind, and geothermal power? So right now we're in the process of finishing that and should be done by 2 weeks from now. So, but this is just one of the main projects that Menlo has allowed me to do in order to find myself truly enjoying the analyst role and using what's provided online in order to make it as a resource, in order to show my perspective on it, thanks to the
Mhm.
help of many others who have guided me along the way.
All right, cool. Let's move on to the feedback section here. First of all, everyone, let's give Chris a round of applause, right? This is really difficult. I think we all remember interviewing for our first job as soon as we were graduating out of school. It's super intimidating, really nerve-wracking. So, Chris, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
All right. So for any typical like walk me through your resume, tell me about yourself, why should we hire you, all of which are very similar answers. Um, Time frame, you want to be somewhere between like a minute and a half to maybe 3 minutes, but ideally somewhere in that time frame. And then you want to focus on relevancy. Right.
Okay.
So in your case, I would highlight all of the relevant projects, coursework, internships, things you've done that would best set you up or make you look like you're qualified for whatever role it is you're applying for. In this case, for the data analyst or business analyst role at SAS, if you look down here for qualifications, they'll tell you typically companies call these minimum qualifications or preferred qualifications. You're going to want to look here because this is going to tell you what are the primary skills or experiences that they care about, right? So for them, what they really want to make sure that you know is that you're good in SQL and or Python and of course SAS, right? And then data visualization tools like Tableau or SAS, which you have experience with, right? So make
Yeah.
sure you highlight that to me right away from the beginning. You could say, yes, I'm getting, I'm at Menlo College. My major is, I think it was like business
Business,
or
business
and
and
economics, but I also have a minor in business analytics.
yeah,
So in my minor courses, I'm taking classes like X, Y, and Z, where I've learned SQL. As well as how to use visualization tools like Tableau. And I've done certain projects like analyzing the air pollution and density, where we analyze data sets using some SQL as well as a little bit of basic Python in order to present overall findings and recommendations. And then you can talk about your internship, right? I know this is software engineering, right? But you can point out that you've also done a software engineering internship at Kaiser last summer because you were choosing between a data analyst path and a software engineering path. But actually, in this software engineering role, I don't know, maybe you actually did work on some
Some
reporting or data or analytics or something. Who knows, right? Because it says here earned certifications in data development tools. I don't know, right? Maybe if you did some reporting or you dabbled a little bit in SQL while you were there, who knows? But highlight some of that stuff for the interviewer as well to show them that you've actually gotten some real world experience through your internship. And obviously, Kaiser is a very recognizable brand, so it shows that you were able to land a very prestigious internship even though it's not in the right field, you were still able to get a internship at Kaiser, which is still very impressive, right? So I would say when you're answering these types of questions, focus on all the relevant skills that they would want to hear. And if you want to, also on your resume, you can call out some of the data analytics projects that you've done in your courses. So you could have like an education section, and then within it you could call out like key projects, right? So relevant coursework, and then you could do like relevant projects underneath it or something like that. And then it is good to highlight your leadership experience, which is great. So you can talk about how you've also had leadership opportunities on campus, like you were the president for the trading club, where you were able to help. Looks like you managed key partnerships with Chase in order to secure funding for the trading club, and then you're also a member of the Dean Student Advisory Council and other things. But that can be like a super short section of it because you want to highlight that you have these amazing positions and you've learned you built your leadership skills, but you want to focus the majority of your time on the analytics and technical skills that you have.
right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, cool. All right. So now that we got that warm-up question out of the way, let's go to this next one. And I used to recruit for data analyst roles, so I'm going to use some of the questions that I used on my screening calls. So the one of the ones that I used to always ask was, Chris, can you rate your SQL skills on a scale of 1 to 10 and explain why you have that rating? And then can you do the same for Python?
Uh, I would rate my SQL skills from a 7 to 8 because I got the basic understanding thanks to Menlo College and even was able to do projects or assignments to better understand my proficiency at SQL. So that was able to really jumpstart that, and I wasn't able to do some of those features at Kaiser, but as I said right there, earned internal KP Learn certifications and data development tools during my downtime that was able to help hone some of these data analysis roles that would be crucial for this, like Agile and Confluence, some things like that that help. That was another tool for data visualization I've also used. And for Python, I would rate it at, since it's basic Python right now, I'll rate it at like a 5, 6, maybe because I'm honing those skills as we speak through a master's course here at Menlo that I've been working diligently with teammates that have helped me figure out how to some of the basics. And from there, I'm gonna jumpstart that through a project that I mentioned to you earlier. And some of these things of with teammates or assignments for proficiency are some of the things that I've learned in the workplace that are really efficient and key because through a team, sometimes you're not going to be alone. And as a team, you help each other figure out some things that one person might not be good at and the other person could excel. So from there, that you just combine the skills that we have and learn together. As I know that through business analysts or data analysis, it's all about continuous growing. And that's one of the things that looking at this role was one of the things that captured my eye and that I would like to continue to do in this field.
Okay. So for SQL, you rated yourself a 7 or 8. So what are some of the more complex functions or skills in SQL that you know that you would want to work on
Uh,
or learn?
s- I I guess just some of the SQL functions that I would like to learn is I guess for like grouping and forming more going in depth with that because I know that can be really useful as a business analyst or data analysis, just using that in order to uh break down just not only not visualizations but just coding in order to help you with any projects that might happen in the future. And through projects, I know when you get hands-on experience through through projects, especially in Kaiser, giving projects for front end, back end development. No, it's not the same, but as a project, it really just opens your eyes to just hands-on work, and through hands-on work, that helps you understand more than anything how to get ready and seeing like, okay, I'm seeing this and this. Now I'm gonna be able to apply myself in this when I get a similar project in the future.
And then what about for Python? You rated yourself a 5 or a 6. So what are some of the Python concepts or skills or things that you know you don't know yet, but you would want to learn on the job?
What I want to learn on the job is more because I know that you can uh well right now what we're using is Colab. And through Colab, we've been doing a lot of we've been seeing the basics, but through the basics, we've been shown it as like there's a generate function that's helped us see some of these concepts into action as like generate long lines of code, but just actually learning more about like in depth about it because my course is pretty condensed course, as in the master's course is 3 weeks. So it's more of just like getting us exposed to the content, but I would like to, break it down in order for me just not to rely on the generate, but just know some of these things and like let's say the code doesn't run right once, then based on experience that I will gain through projects, I can be like, okay, the reason why the code might not be running right is because we might have tabbed one too many times or we might have entered a line wrong or just small little errors. So just being being able to comprehend these things and propel it towards my future is something that I would look into.
Okay. All right, cool. So we typically ask this question on our screening calls with candidates because it's like we don't expect anyone to be a 10, especially if you are recently graduating from like a master's or a bachelor's program. We understand that no one's going to be a 10 out of 10. And in fact, no one should be a 10 out of 10 because there's always something that you you can learn. But the key here is being able to talk about number one, what you do know and what you have mastered, specifically the types of functions that you know and ones that you've used either in your internships or your school projects, and then how those functions have been helpful, right? So in your case, you've done a little bit of I think you mentioned grouping, right? For
Mm,
example, in SQL, but maybe you
yeah.
haven't done Windows functions or some of the more advanced SQL functions, right? That's okay. But if you can identify that to me, then at least I know you've already identified the specific things that you need to learn, which also shows me that you do understand at a high level the types of things that SQL or Python can do, and then some of the pros or cons between either either language. And by the way, that's also one of the questions that like you typically get, right? Is like, what in what instances would you use SQL over Python, and then vice versa. We're not going to go into that one because I'm not technical enough to actually give feedback on it. But for those of you who are watching, that is going to be one of the questions that you typically get if you're interviewing for like any business analyst or data analyst role. So I think the key here is number one, making sure you've got a good story, Chris, where you can talk about what specifically it is that you have mastered or learned in SQL, right? Uh, they are expecting you to have a very basic understanding of SQL, and that's totally normal. But being able to say, yeah, so in SQL, we did a project where I used X, Y, and Z, but I do know that I definitely have some gaps. I've never used the Windows function, but I know it can be really helpful for X, Y, and Z. I know that I there's different types of ways to group data. I know, for example, that I would like to learn how to do blah 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 types of groupings that would work best for this type of data set, but not this type of data set. And then similarly for Python, right? You could say I'm taking a entry level Python course right now as a part of my minor. Some of the concepts I'm learning are X, Y, and Z, but because this is just an introductory course in 3 weeks, we're not going to get to some of the more advanced functions in Python, like blah 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 blah. Right? I know that these would be very helpful for data sets that look like this, and this, or if I need to cleanse data, I would need to know how to do blah 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 blah. Right? Just the fact that you can talk about this would show them that you've done your homework and that you are trainable and coachable, right? It's much easier to train someone when you come to them and you're like, here's a list of things that I know that I don't know. Please teach me how to do these specific things. As opposed to, hey, yeah, I don't really know much. Can you teach me? And they're like, well, what do you want to know, Chris? I don't know. I like, can you teach me Python? And they're like, well, what do you already know, Chris? Right. So it's like it's much it looks better when you can come in with that list, and it also shows that you truly understand um like your strengths and weaknesses.
Right, right.
All right, cool. You're doing great right now, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go with this question. Yeah, okay. So, Chris, from your projects or in school or your any of your internships, can you tell me about a time where you analyzed data in order to make a recommendation for the
Oh,
team, the company, or the business?
oh, absolutely. So one of the visualizations that I made back in Kaiser, as a I know it's a software engineering internship, but through that my supervisor was really helpful and I was able to be under multiple Scrum teams in order to do different functions like back-end development and then analysis work. And through some of this analysis work, I was able to do two key projects that I can think of at the moment was using Agile and Confluence for one in order to compare three Scrum teams and seeing in the span of 5 to 7 weeks. I think it was 7 weeks. How how receptive they were and like the amount of work they're doing, and based on that work, just seeing the efficiency throughout the work because each Scrum week you will report back every 2 weeks, and then that will be a full Scrum. And then through that process, I was able to make an Excel thanks to the help of uh, Agile and Confluence that my supervisor will use to see these results in order to give feedback towards some of these teams. And the second thing I was able to do was hone in on one Scrum team that I was very keen with. And through that process, I was able to see all the people, you know, their in days, out days. And through that process, it was a similar thing where I gave it to the Scrum Master, and the Scrum Master assisted me throughout the way on what I should put, what I shouldn't put. And through that, it was able to bring a positive feedback towards Scrum meetings that we had in the future in order for them to create better efficiency for the future based on the results that I gave them.
Okay. Can you can you help clarify? So what specifically did you what metrics, I guess we should say, what metrics were you looking at? And then what were some of the recommendations that you had made specifically to the Scrum Master for the Scrum teams?
Some of the so some of the things that I saw was just the output of the workflow that was going into some of these events because they varied from like small numbers to high numbers based on the workflow that was needed for their areas because we had like the Medicare, GSC, etc. And through that, we're able to see the amount of efficiency that was done in this, even though there might have been people that went out or went in. So just seeing like multiple people's like how much work did they do in said Scrum week, and through that seeing like what were some of the deficiencies or ineffective like projects that they had a backlog or something or yeah, backlog or how many they got done that they had planned out throughout the Scrum week as I saw in the Agile calendar. And based on that, I was able to put it neatly on an Excel sheet and show, and then the supervisor gave recommendations saying based on the based on the Excel how some people needed to maybe or how they had to focus on some more backlog projects and just continue to optimize the projects in order to not have as much backlogged.
Okay, okay. So you analyzed the workloads of the different Scrum teams and also looked at their backlog of open, I guess you can call them like Jira cases or tickets.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you worked with the Scrum Master in order to provide recommendations on ways to streamline each Scrum team's caseload based on something, something, something.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. Cool. So I think for this one, this is a good story. Um, And then just so you and I know, what kind of analysis did you do? Like, were you just pulled a report from Jira and then you put it on a slide, or what was the analysis?
The analysis was based on the 7 weeks that I mentioned to you earlier, that the work output that was done, I just put it on an Excel sheet and through those numbers that I was able to get from Agile uh, or Confluence, that I was able to put it into one condensed ex sheet in order to show these differences between, let's say, some of the people or some of the front end developers or back end developers that they had to do at the or they did in the week, and comparing that to another team or comparing that in each week and seeing what weeks did they excel in or what weeks did they not do as hot in, and showing that report to a Scrum Master in order to see in order to, as I said before, not have as many backlogs and see their strengths and weaknesses so that they can be prepared for the future
S-
for
So did
some
you do
cases
any
that
type of calculations, or you just literally copied data, pasted it in an Excel sheet, and then compared two teams side by side?
it was more about comparing the teams side by side type of thing.
Okay. So there was like no calculations, there was no
Mm,
rewriting of
Not,
new functions, basically just comparing teams and then
I think I had to write some functions in order to, make the data in Excel neat. So just like some equations in order to, add everything up and using some more of the equations in order to like neatly format everything to make it look presentable towards the supervisor or scrum master.
okay, okay, got it. All right. So this is a really good story to talk about. And so what I want you to do later on is practice the storytelling aspect of it, right? Focusing on the how and why is going to be really important. Um, you can keep it a little bit vague, like you did in terms of how you were analyzing data and then making recommendations. You should word it that way because uh, we don't want to just say like, yeah, I copied data from Jira, pasted it in, and then looked at two teams side by side because that's not as it doesn't sound as cool
Yeah,
as like proper analysis, right? So we can just
yeah.
say you analyze data and then you made recommendations. But the recommendation part, that's the part where I think you should expand on, right? You could say some of the recommendations that I noticed was, the Scrum team focusing on whatever, Medi-Cal or Medicaid actually, was more efficient, less efficient on something, something, something. So I made a recommendation to the Scrum Master that they should blah, 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 blah. Who knows? Right. But give me something specific to talk about that shows the recommendation that came out of your analysis,
Okay,
if that
gotcha.
makes sense, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the most important part is like the what that came out of it. And for those of you who are practicing your stories using the STAR method, think about who, what, where, when, why, and how. The who part usually not super important. The when also super not important unless that makes something like really complicated or you have to rush through something or you had a tight deadline or something like that. But then it's the what, the how, and the why are really where you want to be focusing a lot of your storytelling on. But I definitely think this is a good story. It just needs to be brushed up a little bit, right? And then made more concise.
Gotcha.
All right, cool. And again, if anyone has questions for me or Chris, put it in the chat. Okay, let's try a hypothetical. Because for those of you who are applying for entry-level roles out of school, you are going to get hypotheticals because they can't ask you behaviorals for everything. Because obviously, if you've never done this before, they're going to ask you how you would do this for them instead. So let's try this question. Okay, so Chris, imagine you were hired as a sales analyst for one of our cloud customers, and they asked you to build some sales dashboards from scratch. What are some KPIs and metrics that you would want to prioritize and put into those dashboards? And what tools would you think would be best to use to visualize and present the data?
Some KPIs that I would think for a sales analyst is, well, based on the amount of customers that we would be getting, I think just seeing the numbers on like expenses or how much they're paying for said item would be really good to see. So maybe I have a team that excels in that in Agile or Confluence, and I can analyze some of those numbers and make put them onto Tableau. I think Tableau will be a great way to visualize these things just to put it into a picture because that's what Tableau really specializes in. And as a picture, everyone would be able to see these things of through as a sales analysis where we're maybe getting this much profit from this segment of people, or we're losing this much because of this. So just putting these into a picture, and then from there based on the teams that might excel in seeing the numbers of how many customers we're getting or the output of that. I can go to them and say, would these KPIs be relevant in order for me to broadcast this visualization for the final thing and gain that feedback and recommendation in order to finalize my recommendations for the analysis that will be showing as the analyst, as a sales analyst, would really help me bring a picture, not only to me, but to others seeing this, so the recommendations can go into play after.
Okay. So one of the metrics that you wanted to present in your dashboard would be like gross margin or profit margin,
Correct.
right? Like
Correct.
sales over expenses.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some other key KPIs that you think a sales team would want to know?
Another KPI sales team might want to know is probably the demographic of what these people what what the demographic is of people that are buying the product. Let's say it's mainly like teens or adults, and seeing another metric on the outreach that our company might be doing based on social media, if it's targeting these teens or adults, and how effective that might be in order for to help our marketing team to help them with the analysis that we're getting from this, maybe to up up money for putting more money into the marketing team in order to, fully grasp that demographic of the teens or adults and seeing to fully maximize our profits.
Okay. Is that more of a marketing metric or a sales metric?
And so, well, since sales, in order to sell, you need to market the brand and market the company in a good light. I would kind of mix the two because through our marketing, that's how we would help boost our sales and bringing more data. and more people that would come to know our business through the web marketing that we can do based on the analysis that I would be giving them.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So this is a tricky question, obviously. For all the hypothetical questions, what is always best is to try to structure or organize your answer into some kind of outline so that you can present that to your interviewer first. It also buys you some time. It kind of helps you stall a little bit so that your brain can kind of keep creating ideas or options or different ways to potentially solve a problem while you're doing it. But it also makes you look very organized. So, for example, in the beginning here, the question was, imagine we hired you as a sales analyst and we asked you to build some dashboards from scratch. What are some of the KPIs that the sales team would want to care about? And how would you visualize the data? So you could say, yeah, so I think if I'm thinking about key metrics and KPIs, there's definitely at least three that I think the sales team would want to care about. First would be probably lead generation. Whether that's from our marketing programs or from cold calling, things like that. Second would probably be our conversion rate. How many of our customers are we able to actually convert into paying customers when we do talk to them and when we start the sales cycle process? And then one of the third metrics would um, maybe around like we'll take your idea, right? Gross margin and profits, because we also want to make sure that we're not giving away too many discounts just to land a specific customer. We also want to make sure that we're profitable and we're going to be able to hit our company's sales goals and profitability metrics, right? So those are the three that I would want to start with, and then let me tell you about why each of these are important. So first, you kind of give them the general overview, and then you talk about how why they're important, why you chose them, and how you would specifically calculate them, and maybe some other variables that you would want to consider in order to make sure that your calculation is fully comprehensive and accurate and correct. Then you go to the second part of the question. And then you can say, well, and then your second part of the question was, what are some of the data visualization tools that I would want to use to best represent this data? So I myself have been trained in Tableau, so I would be most comfortable and familiar with that. However, I do also know that there are other data visualization tools, and our customer may not have Tableau. So they may have Power BI, or they may have SAS Visual Analytics or something like that, right? Each software has different pros and cons. As I've learned from my coursework, Tableau is great for X, Y, and Z, but is not good if you have, I don't know, extremely large data sets, or it does require, extra data cleansing and parsing, which may not be possible for this company if the data sets are too large or are not well organized or something like that, right? So here you got to show off some of your knowledge around visualization tools, right? Pros and cons, when one is good, when one is not good. Even though you're only trained in Tableau, their job description talks about SAS Visual Analytics and or similar tools, right? So you should still be aware at a very high level of pros and cons of each of these different visualization tools, right? Why one is better than the other, when one would potentially be easier or harder than the other, right? And then of course there's just good old-fashioned Excel. So walking them through will also show them how much research and knowledge you've done in this space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, cool. So these are tricky questions. So let's go into some from Albert. Um, why do you want to work at the SAS Institute?
Um, a reason that I will want to work at SAS is because from what the research that I've saw, it has a commitment to innovation, a strong foundation in analytics, and a mission to use data to solve real world problems. And through my background of business and the minor in analytics, I've seen how impactful data can be not only through Tableau, but through my understandings of SQL and Python that have joined together in order to help me make a broadened idea of the power that data can really be. Even during my time in my in my internship through Kaiser, where I worked on analytics, front end improvements for Medicare enrollment tools. Um, Another thing that really draws me to SAS is the opportunity to grow in an environment that blends technical depth with purpose-driven work. And what I mean by that is with the knowledge of how to use different KPIs, as you just mentioned, through Tableau, and how sometimes that can be a little time consuming based on the amount of data cleansing that you might need to do, that you might need to go to another preferred another data visualization board in order for your big, large sets of data to be really condensed in an easier fashion than something that I might excel in, but using the team to really help you out is something that I see SAS does well in helping you build strengths. And even though you might have weaknesses, you can still propel yourself in order to understand your weaknesses and become a better data visualist through that. Interested in and through these weaknesses, it can grow my skills in data storytelling, dashboarding, and cross-functional analysis, all which are key to parts to play in the analysis role at SAS.
Okay. Okay. Was that like a chat GPT um, answer?
No.
Okay. Um, so for this question, the why do you want to work here? Could be any company, right? In this case, it's SAS Institute or whatever company, right? You want to focus the majority of your answer on the company itself. So in your case here, Chris, you focused a lot on the data analyst role and what skills you can get from being a data analyst, how they can help you grow your career, how you can work in a team environment, all the different skills you can learn, stuff like that, right? But they're asking you why you want to work at this company. So the majority of your answer should focus on like the company culture values, some of the products that they have, right? This is where you get to show off some of your research in terms of what draws you towards the SAS Institute over other companies. So if possible here, talk about some of the key products that you like, or what about their business model it is that's so interesting. Or maybe you know that they have, you know, one of the leading AI tools in something for data, right? Like why SAS itself, that this company specifically is so intriguing for you. And of course, Albert works at SAS, so I'm sure he can also give you a bunch of cool things that this company is working on. But for this question, try to focus a lot on the company itself. Obviously, you have to talk a little bit about the role and how you can help them, but focus a lot of it on the company. And someone in the chat earlier today did ask, how important is it or how much research do you need to do on the company before an interview? I would say probably about like 10 to 15 minutes of research, nothing super crazy, but you do need to have enough to answer questions like this, like why do you want to work here? That way you can talk about their specific products, their customers, maybe some of their competitors, maybe something you saw in the news recently about, you know, some initiative that they have or some big deal that they landed, or maybe they had record high earnings. Just a little bit of research so you can show them that you really did that you did your homework, and that shows them that you really do want to work there. But all right, cool. Everyone, let's give Chris another round of applause. That was amazing. Great job practicing for this business analyst role. And we are still looking for volunteers, I believe. And I think there's another mock interview after this one. So I'll kick this back over to Albert.
All right, yep. And so if you are interested, please reach out. We always have mock interview slots available, especially in a competitive market like this. So please feel free to connect with me, connect with Corey, connect with Chris as well. If you have an opportunity for him, let him know. If nothing else, just clap your hands or hit the emoji button, and let's congratulate him on a great mock interview. We've also got a lot of other great events coming up here on Albert's list over the next couple of weeks. We hope to see you there, and we hope to see you again very, very soon. Have a great, wonderful rest of your evening, and thank you again for spending your time with us. Bye bye.